in Jakarta after a motorcycle ride-sharing driver, Affan Kurniawan, was killed by a police vehicle during clashes near the Parliament building yesterday. The incident has sparked protest calls by student groups and motorcycle drivers in particular, prompting schools to let students leave early and banks and businesses to ask employees to work from home. Now, the military has been deployed in some areas in order to maintain order. President Prabowo Subianto has expressed shock and condemned the excessive police actions and has ordered a transparent investigation into this matter. 7 police officers from the armored vehicle involved have been arrested already. This death has now led to public outrage, with funeral processions by hundreds of ride-sharing drivers, while legal aid groups are calling for the release of 600 protesters detained during the demonstrations. Let's in fact listen in to what some of the protesters have had to say.
Untuk tunjangan mereka itu kalau nggak salah 3 juta per hari dihitung per hari. Sedangkan masyarakat sendiri di Indonesia itu masih banyak yang masih kekurangan, masih berada di tahap
DPR listriknya siapa yang bayar? Pajaknya siapa yang bayar? Udah dibayarin, kita mau dibikinin lagi. Enak aja. Hanya satu kata, apa? Yang keras, apa?
Protests erupted in Jakarta 2 days back when students, workers and activists took to the streets against lavish parliamentary allowances and perceived corrupt elites. Now, demonstrators objected to a monthly housing allowance of 50 million rupiah or $3,075 for lawmakers, which is nearly 10 times the local minimum wage in addition to their salaries. Mr. Ross Feingold still with us on the broadcast. We've just heard some of the local protesters also speak out. They had highlighted their discontent with this allowance in particular, and they questioned who pays for these allowances. They had asked, while we receive low wages and the lawmakers are now reaping benefits, and it's been one of these low-wage workers, a motorcycle rider, who's lost his life tragically in excessive force. What do you make of these protests that are taking place, and of course the very glaring economic aspect to this?
If we go back to last year, the Indonesian presidential election, Prabowo Subianto was elected with about 59% of the votes. So he was extremely popular at the time of his election. He took office last October, so a little less than a year ago. And unfortunately for him, he's had to confront a lot of domestic opposition to some of his policy decisions. And he needs to be careful here. He doesn't want this to get out of hand. But in the last few days, we've seen scenes of tremendous violence. And now we have the death of this young man who is a very sympathetic person, and he's going to capture, and his death is going to capture a lot of attention and cause a lot of anger. He was somebody working for the gig economy, supporting his family, and he was killed by the police. So the protesters are going to want justice. But beyond the specific incident and the tragic death of this one young man is the growing public anger over some of the policy decisions of President Prabowo. And he needs to be careful here. He needs to be careful that he's not seen as favoring entrenched interests. He's not seen as favoring the tycoons and the wealthy and the members of the Indonesian parliament. So he needs to make sure that his policies are actually popular with the broader public and are not seen as just benefiting a select few.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Feingold, for taking our time speaking to us today on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus towards